What's poppin', players? Welcome back to the Two Penny Gameclub, your monthly video game book club in which me, your host, Tavin Bothel, alongside my good buddies, say hello to the people, Connor Elliott.
Hello and good morning.
And say hello to the people, Phil Shoemaker.
You know, they say if you only do something once, it's not worth it. You got to try again.
Where'd you hear that
This
from?
is the second time we're recording this.
It is the second time we're recording this. We botched the audio in the first one, but here we are. We're back. Ladies and gentlemen, we are back with your review for Mario 64. This is, of course, the Two Penny Game Club, in which in the background, me, Connor, and Phil, we play a game for review. We come to you at the first of the month, or as close to it as we can, and we review and rank it amongst the other games we've played in the Game Club. This is, of course, our 19th episode of the Game Club over their classic game, Super Mario 64. Some background on the game. Super Mario 64 was released in June 23rd, 1996, worldwide the following year. It sold nearly 12 million units worldwide and is currently sitting at a Metacritic score of 94. Now, ladies and gentlemen, Super Mario 64 is probably, undoubtedly, the most important game that we've played on the Game Club. It's one of the most important games ever made. There's a clear argument to be made that without Super Mario 64, gaming never elevates beyond the 2D realm, and we are still there to this day. It's undebatably just an absolute titan, landmark, industry-changing standard. But, man, I'm not one to usually say this about games, but this game is old. I'm not one who usually subscribes to old game is old type mantra or mindset. Like, I usually think if you just do a little bit of legwork, you can meet the game halfway and have no problems playing it. You know, prime examples of this, in my opinion, are like games like Final Fantasy VII, Metal Gear Solid, the original, and plenty others, Chrono Trigger, where if you just simply do a little bit of effort, you can meet it halfway, no problem, and enjoy it just as well. It took a lot of effort for me to get into the mindset and start enjoying Mario 64. I'll say at the beginning of my playthrough, it was a really charming experience at first where I go, wow, look at this. You know, Peach's castle, running around in the open field. This is the first time anybody's ever done this. The camera's a little wonky, but, you know, it's fine or whatever. But as I kept playing, it very quickly kind of became frustrating to me because the physics just didn't feel right. And I tried my best to, like, set myself back in the time that the game was released. But I found that probably the biggest challenge is to kind of just get that and acquire the feel of the game. I don't know if I ever successfully acquired the game feel or figured out the physics of how Mario moves or what would cause him to slide down a hill versus walk up it, what inclines are too steep. It just never really connected. I always felt lost in that process. I think the level design varies from pretty good to kind of meh. But whenever a level fails in design, it usually has a cool gimmick. Big Small Island or whatever that level is called is a good example.
Tiny
of that.
Huge.
Tiny Huge. Tiny Huge Island is a good example of that. But it where I don't think the level is cool, but the gimmick of shrinking and growing by hopping into the different pipes, that kind of like breathed new life into the level. And I kind of always felt like that, where like if the level design wasn't great, it would fall back on a gimmick that would make it interesting at least. I think the art design is a little basic and not always unified, but for the most part, it's charming and still holds up. I think just basically like, I understand that this is one of the most important games of all time, but we've aged and we've learned and we've grown past it so much to the point to where with a new lens playing it for the first time in 2024, it just doesn't really hold up as much as I would like it to. Now that's not to say that it's not a good game. I still think it's a good game, and I still think for the most part you can play it and enjoy yourself But there are just incredible moments of frustration with the controls in which I would say I was never like angry playing it, but it would very quickly turn me off and make me feel like, oh God, I would really rather play anything else right now.
Some frustration for sure.
Oh, for sure. So I think at the end of the day, like Mario 64, I'm glad I played it. I'm glad it's in my repertoire. I know more about it now that I've played it. But it's probably like one of the few games on this list and in this series that I have no desire to revisit. But in the most positive way. I guess I'll say that. Connor, how about you, my friend? Where are you landing here with Mario 64?
Well, based off your tone, I'm pretty right there alongside you. Unfortunately, the aspects of the game that are old, as you mentioned, are the camera and the controls. And for a platformer like Mario, that's very important to get right. And unfortunately, when it doesn't, it results in a game where, yes, you do think you're constantly wanting to play something else instead of this old, janky game. Despite its importance, at the end of the day, you don't really... It's from my perspective, I never played the game and felt like the 3D camera was revolutionary because I didn't play it back in the day when it was new. So all I was left with was a janky camera that hindered my gameplay experience throughout the entire game. It has charm.
Yeah, it just feels bad. It just feels bad.
It does not feel satisfying. But actually, it's a good point Tavin made. It's not ever making you feel angry. Maybe frustrated at times, annoyed, which isn't great, but at least it's better than just absolutely hating a game. And it's pretty impressive, the level designs at some points. I mean, the first couple of missions, Bomba Bomb Battlefield, Jolly Rogers Bay, those ones are popular for a reason because they are the best areas that game has to offer, but it's at the very front end of the game. As you're going through the other levels and all the other paintings and whatnot, you kind of start not really liking the level design as much as those first couple ones. They're still relatively good, especially from time to time, but overall, it's kind of stark when you realize that the game that everybody talks about when it comes to Mario 64 is that beginning segment. And it is cool that even if there isn't a map that you like later on, due to the way the game progresses, having to get 70 stars and having a lot of options on how you can get them and in which order you can get them, if there's a part of the game you aren't very fond of, you can just skip that level and possibly never even come back to it. But there is a certain point in the game where you kind of do have to go back to some of those old levels, at least to get 1 star and then do a bunch of the other stars in the other level to get to 70. And 70 seems a bit of a high mark for a game that kind of starts to wear out its welcome after a certain point. But once again, it is a game that was made to get as much mileage out of it at the time, especially considering what other games were coming around. I mean, if you wanted an extremely long gameplay experience, you would have to jump over to like a JRPG for these kinds of platformers, action third-person games, not so much. So it is actually, it really works in a way where it allows you to just partake in all these small little bits that the game has to provide, particularly at Princess Peach's castle, which is very well designed. It's a great hub world, and it feels very homey. The faulty controls and the camera don't really show there because you're not required to do any kind of accurate movement like the paintings will require you to do. And so going through Peach's castle, you can find secret levels. You can find, toads that give you stars, random, what are they called? Like Zoid things? They're like the floppy-eared fucking assholes that you have to chase, and then you pick them up. You get a star that way. Mips. That's what it is.
I never caught one of those guys.
You never did, huh?
Never did.
Huh. So, it's very sad, Tavin. But I caught them, and I got a star from it. And, it's cool things like that make this game stand out as not just a run-of-the-mill, go do your levels and progress naturally through the game. I don't know how many games at the time had done that, but even now, after we've had things like the Souls games, for example, which always have a hub world, it was very notably interesting in this game as well, and entertaining to go through and explore Princess Peach's castle. But all these kinds of things, I think, kind of fall by the wayside when you consider the gameplay, which is the most important part of a game, and despite its importance in the video game genre, it just doesn't hold up nowadays, like some other old games can. And I wouldn't really recommend you needing to jump into this game. despite how important it is. But there are elements to appreciate from a game design perspective that you can see resonate down the line from subsequent games. But overall, I could be a lot harder on the game, but I did find a certain charm persisted after the game was over. And I looked back on my experience overall fondly, but not one that I would ever really jump back into again.
I'm with you on most of what you're saying here, Connor, except for I do think if you want to talk about games in a learned perspective, in an educated perspective, you do have to come and play this game. Like, you can't talk
At least once.
Yeah, you can't have the conversation of greatest games of all time without playing this game. Like, you need to at least play it, give it its credence, and then, like, you can rank it from there, like we will. But it is a must play for those who care about games history or care about the games industry or care about in a modern and in a historic perspective, like how we got to where we are today. Like, it's too important not to pick up the sticks and play. Now, I do wish it was a little more accessible. We all played the 3D All-Stars version of the game, which is no longer available for sale. Thank you, Nintendo. But I think absolutely, like, if you have the means, you should play this game. There's plenty of emulators and stuff for it.
I can go read a book.
Speaking of which, Phil, how did you play this game, my friend?
Yeah, so it should be like you said. We primarily played on the 3D All-Stars version for the Nintendo Switch. I just kind of want to talk about how lazy of a port this is, because you'd think that for one of their best games, they would at least do like a better version of the DS port that they did like way back when. But no, they just re-released the Shindo version, which is just a re-release that was in Japan where they just added Rumble to the game. So yeah. And you know, it should say like they kind of patched a lot of things in the game. For speedrun fans, there's no longer a backwards long jump, which is crucial to basically all the speedruns in the game. All the skips that you need to do anyway.
That is, of course, if you've ever watched a speedrun and you see like the player jump up a flight of stairs backwards and it goes like that thing. That's sort of what Phil was referencing there.
Yeah, so I don't know. I played through this game at least twice in my life. I had a friend who had an N64 growing up, so I played a little bit there. I obviously didn't finish the game because that was like one of the times where like I would just go over to their house waiting for the bus to show up in the morning after my parents went to work. Then I was gifted a original DS for I can't remember if it was for like a specific occasion. I think my uncle just gave it to me. Because it was his old one, and that one came with the copy of the Super Mario 64 DS. I think it was just called Super Mario DS at that point. I don't think they added the 64. But that is a great version of this game, where they actually still, to my knowledge, they still had a lot of stuff. They actually added like a multiplayer thing where you could play as, I think there was Luigi, Wario, and I think Yoshi was a playable character.
I thought it was just Luigi.
Yeah, so there was 4 total playable characters because it was up to 4-player not co-op, 4-player like versus where you like fought for stars and stuff. It was a pretty good time. There was like a there's the Peaches slide secret star. There's like a 4-player version of that where you race to the bottom, which is a good time.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it was pretty good. For you guys that never had a DS, which you should have. You should. That's a good version of this game.
I had 2 DSs. I had 3 DSs possibly.
Well, never heard you talk about DSs before.
I had a DS and a DSi. Well, Phil, that's because I only played 007 Quantum of Solace for the DS.
Oh.
Which was basically just a retelling of Casino Royale.
All right, well, all this to say, I did play. I started off my journey playing Mario. Like I said, I played through this game a couple times. I wanted to try to do a speed run
Phil, I'm
of
sorry.
Mario
I'm
64.
sorry to cut you off. Can you just point the camera down just a little bit because you're getting cut off
Okay.
at the bottom?
Sorry, I was just trying to.
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
trying to get right up here.
Yeah,
you know?
bring the or either bring the mic to you or yeah.
So I wanted to attempt something that I've admired for a long time on the internet. That is the 16-star speed run of Mario 64. So playing through, I made it like maybe 30, 40 some odd stars in my original playthrough on the Switch. Then not being ignorant of the Shindo version and what a lazy version that they added to 3D All Stars. Kind of shitty, Nintendo. Just gonna say that again. I attempted the speedrun only to realize there's no backwards long jump in this version. So popped on an emulator on my PC, then got the good old version of Mario 64, the classic best version. And yeah, I did end up doing my 16-star speedrun. I will say, you guys already kind of said it, very janky camera. I hate how, like, at least first starting on the game, I hate how Mario almost has tank controls in this game. Like, it's very, like, he is very much like when you have to change directions, he has to do like a full loop, like, around. It's very weird.
It's definitely like the position of the camera changes sort of like how he works. So like every time you move the camera, you have to like realign which way is forward on the stick in your mind.
Yeah. It's also very annoying that I could be wrong again. I don't think it was now that I'm thinking about it. But how hard would it have been to just bring in full camera control and not just like certain positions? Like, how hard would that have been?
I guess.
In a remaster port situation.
Yeah,
then it would be Mario 64.
I imagine it would be.
You're right. It would be better.
I imagine you'd basically have to remake the game.
Would you really? I don't know.
Yeah,
I guess we're ignorant of that kind of thing. It doesn't seem like it'd be that hard, but who knows? We don't make games. We just talk about them on the internet.
Like Lane.
Yeah, you know. Anyway, yeah, I just stand out parts of it. Who doesn't love Bob on Battlefield? Who doesn't love that music kicks on? And then you fucking start jamming, you know? And then you get up there, you butt slam on the spike, release the chain chomp, let it loose. Then you go fight King Babam, or in whatever order you so choose. That's one thing that I do really enjoy about this game is that you can, wherever you see a star in the world, you can just go grab it. You don't have to stick to the star that you're going for in that like mission that you pick at the beginning of the level.
The non-linearity of it is really, really appreciated. It's almost like the quote unquote level that you're in is less of like, hey, you're going for this star. I mean, sometimes it is because sometimes the level does change, but it's more often than not, it's just a hint of like, hey, go touch a turtle or something like, or what is that one that's kind of difficult to get to? Wall jump does work, or wall jump.
Oh yeah, wall jumps. I think wall jump can work or something like that.
Wall jump does the kick or something like that. Yeah.
On the first ice level, yeah.
Yeah, like it's just kind of like okay, well I know I need a wall jump, so let me find an area where it looks like wall jumps are a thing. You eventually find it, you go, here it is, and then now you're doing that.
I'm also like, I don't know,
to set you on track.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it might have just been a skill issue, but I like in doing that star, I found it really weird to like I couldn't find a consistent way to do like a jumping wall jump. Like where you didn't initially start from a wall jump itself, like going from a flat station, like not stationary, but a flat surface to a wall jump. I found there was no like consistent way to do that repeatedly. I kind of just got lucky. But like I said, it's probably just a skill issue. Which if you want to get good at a Mario 64 speedrun, you need crisp ass movement. I will say, my time for my speedrun was abysmal. I had over 2 hours. I can't remember exactly the time. It was like 2 hours and 16 minutes, whereas the actual world record is something like 14 minutes, which is fucking insane.
It's just loaded.
But anyway,
at that point, like
I know, right? Yeah, people are super refined. People do the backwards long jump in the lobby, for like 0 to 1 star speed runs, which is insane that that's possible. What else was I gonna get at? Bob on Battlefield. I love I talked about the music in this game. I like some of the power ups. I think the wing cap is really satisfying when you can get that kind of momentum going down and doing that kind of dolphin-esque flying throughout the world. I like that. The cannon stuff can be kind of annoying. It doesn't always go exactly where you want to aim it. That can be kind of obnoxious for a few stars.
Yeah.
One of them in Bob on Battlefield, where if you don't get the positioning right, you're gonna have to go to 3 different cannons several different times. But yeah,
That or
really
anytime
really
it's
like
like, hey, shoot off, go to this area, but if you miss, you're just flying off the level and
you're
gone.
just dead.
Yeah.
You're just dead. That's just a wipe. You have to start all over. And that can be kind of frustrating. We talked about a lot about how this game's frustrating, but like that can be frustrating, especially where let me just adjust a little bit. And like the further you get away from like between attempts, the harder it is to like dial in on that aim. So if you don't already know, which I had a pretty good idea, it only took me a couple attempts on I think the one that I'm referencing is Thwomp's Castle, where I just kept missing the one with the cage. Star in the cage,
Is that the one with the star in the cage?
I believe
there's
so.
another one, isn't there?
Is that the one with the weird spider guys on the water?
No, he's talking
No.
the one with the walls that go flat, that like flat and crush you.
It's this cage. This cage is just is like a circular cage with an open top. I'm pretty sure it's Thwomp's Castle or Womp's Castle.
I'm certain that there is one there. I just don't know if it's the only one.
But anyway, I really like Mario 64. I think it's one of the most fun games to watch, and that's why I think the speedrun community is so popular. Just watching somebody be really good at this game is super fun and engaging. And I'll say it's engaging for me watching this B-roll that Tavin recorded because he's not the best at it, which is fine. It's the
I hate
level
this fucking level.
Hazy Maze Cave. Hazy Maze Cave. Yeah, that's one of my least favorites for sure.
Yeah, this level sucks.
But standouts for me, I really like the first ice level. I really like Bob on Battlefield. I really like Tiny Huge Island, and I think what's that one? I think it's like Tall Mountain or something like that. I can't remember exactly what it's called. Tall Mountain. That's one of my favorites too. Where the only third part that kind of sucks is the monkey that steals your hat.
Oh yeah,
never happened to me.
Yeah, I was able to avoid him, but I remember it back in the DS days, him being fucking annoying, very very annoying. That's another thing I wanted to talk about on the DS version. If the way to change characters, you change hats. Some of the like power ups, like you get a yellow hat for Wario and you're heavier. Yeah, so you get I think it is just a Yoshi head. But anyway, if the Wario cap just makes you bigger and heavier, so like when you go into water, you just like kind of walk on the floor, which is kind of cool. But it's kind of like the iron boots from Zelda. But anyway, all this to say, Mario 64, blast of a game.
This game.
Metal Mario. Yeah, you're right. I don't know why I went to Zelda whenever there's an obvious example right here in the same game. Anyway, I do like Mario 64. It's just very old, very clunky at times.
What are your favorite levels, Tavin?
I mean, a lot of them have been said, the early ones. I forget the name of it, but the one with the snowman who can blow you off the bridge. I like that level quite a bit.
Second ice level, everyone should call
it. The second ice level. I like that way more than the first, just because, one, it's not as easy to like fall off a cliff and die in that level. Any level where it's not easy to fall off a cliff and die, I enjoyed that one quite a bit. And then I enjoyed any of the obstacle course levels, like to get to Bowser or anything like that. I thought those were really well designed.
Ooh, yeah.
Reminded me a lot of our hype playthrough of Super Mario Sunshine when we were doing the floodless levels, which I think are the best part of that game. And then
very much missing the acapella.
Yeah, the acapella is so good. But yeah, I think a lot of the early levels are great, and then there's like some interspersed ones in between. And then again, like I always think like the gimmicks are cute. Like I like the gimmicks, like the what is it called? Tiny big,
Tiny huge.
tiny huge. Like I really like that one. The one where you're like lowering and raising the water level. Didn't love that level, but I thought it was creative and it made me think about how the level was designed and how to navigate it using the water and not using the water, which I thought was kind of cool. It just kind of engaged the mind in a really cool way. I'll tell you, did not like the desert level. Did not like that one at all.
Ooh, yeah, shifting sandland.
Yeah, that one's boo
Not
boo.
good.
I don't like it.
I like that.
The clock one near the end, TikTok clock or TikTok.
TikTok clock. Yep.
Yeah. Didn't care for that one either. But you know,
Very long.
overall, like I think for the most part, like a lot of the levels are solid and fun. I'll say just as a transitionary game, Mario clearly did it the best from 2D era to 3D. And clearly he did it the best. And just like the immediate charm of the game, the music, the art direction, the level designs, the voice of Mario. This is the first time we hear the voice of Mario. Charles Martinet just knocks it out of the park. He's instantly likable, instantly you're on his side just with the different noises that he makes. He's cheery. There's a sense of just joy and happiness that is just overflowing from the game. Yeah, like you're having fun because it feels like Mario's having fun. And I think the character design choice to go that route was really, really smart of Nintendo to go there. Because like, I mean, if you just look at the older like 2D Mario games, whether it's the original Mario Brothers or Super Mario 3 or World or anything like that, they're fun and they're bright and cheery for the most part. But like Mario is just kind of like there, like you just kind of like go, okay, that's me and that's it. Here it's like, oh, Mario kind of has a character of his own in this game. Obviously, clearly limited because he doesn't say anything other than Yahoo. But like, you know, you get hit by fire, he goes, ow, 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 ow. Like all of these sounds, all of these like classic sounds that we're all familiar with began here. And it's impressive that it's just immediately like they just knocked that part out of the park, which was awesome. Weird that Peach has lines. Very weird. And that she talks.
Oh, I
Signed.
see. You're fine with men being able to talk, but once a woman opens her mouth, all of a sudden becomes
Mario
a problem.
doesn't talk in this game. He just makes noises.
Absolutely, Connor.
Yeah,
That's exactly what he's saying.
I know.
Tavin, you don't have to worry about it. I will defend you here. He's right.
I hate.
That's the end of the bit. I don't have
Phil
anything
siding
to say.
with the fake misogyny over here.
Yeah.
That's what's crazy to me.
Yeah.
Hey, Tavin on that one piggy bank sides with Nazis. He,
Oh, that's
it's
right.
all
Yeah,
good.
that did happen. Yeah,
When did that happen?
you were there.
I
You
know,
were
I know
there.
I was,
You were
but
there.
I felt like I would have. That would have cemented in my mind.
He
Well,
just
it clearly did.
he mistakenly references Nazis like 3 or 4 times throughout one episode.
Just
but-
offhandedly happened to, and I think you called me out. You're like, why do you keep bringing up Nazis? So anyway,
Mistakenly. Right.
but yeah, I mean, Phil brought it up. The music in this game, especially in the early levels and everything, like it's just fucking good. Like it's cheery. Like even like the big like operatic boss fight themes are dope. Or theme is dope. The race theme, the just general level theme, all of it works. All of it's great. The only like part of the sound design I don't like is when you move the camera and the camera having a noise attached to it. Yeah. And I'm like, all right, well, okay, got it. You could just not do it, and then I'll go in the other direction. But if I'm looking in the mind of a game designer and I go, this is the first time a player has ever moved the camera on their own, they need to know what's happening when they press that button. Let's make a noise to show that, hey, the camera's moving because of a button input. Like, from a design perspective of like, okay, this is the first time it's ever happened, that makes sense. But it only makes the game age worse because it does it and you go, why? Why did you do this?
We just said why, Tavin.
So
It's
annoying.
okay
I know I
to
said why, but when you first put your hands on sticks
Yeah.
today, it's like, fuck, man. This
Messy
is
in practice.
annoying.
That and the squawking penguin. Those are the 2 bits in the game where it just kind of pierces your ears over and over again. But Yeah, the music's great. I love the early levels. Bomb Battlefield. What was it? I think it was Shifting. No. It was the first Fire level. I really liked the music during that one. Kind of that twangy type song. No.
I'm struggling to recall what you're talking about.
Either way, the music's overall good. It's a reason why it's become so iconic. Just even with all of the camera issues and control issues, that even though you have to pay respect to the game as a whole and what it did, that kind of cast that by the wayside because those are so janky in the game themselves. But the music, you easily realize why it achieved the level of fame it did, because you're just kind of tapping your foot along the entire time. It's not every game is able to make as snappy of a soundtrack as Mario does on a moment-to-moment gameplay basis, but they did it.
And on top of that, the game's ability to do a lot with very little, I think, is also impressive. There's not a lot of buttons that you're pressing in this game. A lot of buttons kind of do the same thing or just don't do anything. And so them being able to the punch, for example, like the punch is like multifunctional. Like you use it to slide, you use it to pick enemies up, you use it to swing Bowser around. Like there's a lot of different functions that button provides, and like the fact that like it still feels intuitive. It still feels like you're doing what you're doing. Except for the slide. The slide almost never happens when I want it to happen. It's very rare that I'm like, yeah, I want to slide, and then he slides. Or it's like, okay, I'm going to punch, and then I didn't like stop running enough, and I end up sliding by accident and falling off the level and stuff like that. And it's little annoying things like that just kind of plague the entire playthrough, where you're running up a hill and you think you've got it. You think you've got enough momentum, or it's not steep enough, and then you go start sliding down there. Or there's so many times, especially early on, where like I'm running to jump off of a platform and I press the button, but I guess I pressed it too late, and Mario just falls off the platform and dies, or I got to start over, or something like that. And it's just little things like that I just never fully grasped like how that is supposed to feel, and it's something that they figure out later. But here it feels a little floaty. The physics just don't feel quite right. Like it's not 100% where it needs to be. It's like mostly there, and because of it's mostly like you want to do things and then you're just not doing it in the way you think. I also found the timing for the triple jump to be a little difficult sometimes. I didn't have 100% hit rate on the triple jump.
I feel like the game prevents you from doing the triple jump on certain levels, because sometimes I would do it over and over again. I could just never pull it off. But other times I would do it super easily whenever I was trying to. It seemed like the more smaller maps, like for example, Boo's Haunted House Castle. I think that one.
That's a big level.
Yeah, I like that one. That's one of my favorites. But
it's very dependent on like momentum too. Like that's another big thing.
Yeah, moving, like you can't do it sitting still, or you got to be moving while you're doing. Boo's Haunted Castle is a great example of what I'm saying with the inclines and stuff. The star where you have to fight the big Boo on the balcony, and then jump across over to the roof. Hope you don't slide and fall off of that. Climb up as you're climbing up, hoping that Mario doesn't slide, and then climb up another incline and hope Mario doesn't slide off of that. Like, I just found it very difficult to get to that star. Beating the Boo wasn't that tough, but getting to the star was. And it was like, well, this should be the easy part, right? Like when the star like goes boo-doo-doo and flies off and goes to where it lands, like getting to the star now should be the easy part, right? Like that, it doesn't compute that it's now the hard part.
Well, that's the part of the game where the controls, one of the parts of the game where the controls really show how unrefined they are. But thankfully, it's not always so precise as far as movement is concerned, with you trying to get stars or surpass the level. But when it does happen, that's where the frustration really amps up, because the oldness of the game really starts coming through in a negative way there. But
and the pendulum kind of swings both ways. There are some times where I'm like, oof, should not have landed that jump, but I did. Yeah. Thanks, game. Like, so it's a bit of a double-edged sword.
There's some good stuff too. Yeah.
But I think more often than not, it messes me up more than it helps me. And so I would rather
sure.
it be a little tighter. I would rather it be, unfortunately, just a little bit more modern. If this game were to get a remake in the style of like a Link's Awakening or the Super Mario RPG, I know we've got Thousand Year Door coming down the pipeline. If this game were to get that kind of treatment, I think it would be an absolute 100% must buy. Go play it right now.
Absolutely.
But in its current state, if you're like us and you want to be informed and have perspectives and talk about video games in an elevated way, you have to play it. But I mean, if you're just like Joe Schmo who just likes video games a lot, go play Odyssey, go play Galaxy, go, there's other better examples of this that like feel better, that are more unified in art direction, that are less janky, like, but in no way, shape, or fashion can I say that this game is bad. In no way, shape, or fashion can I say it's boring. We've played both bad and boring games on this podcast, and I think this is leagues ahead of all of those. So it's impressive that it is able to. It's impressive that it's able to keep up in the fact that it did it first. In the fact that it's as old as it is. I mean, just remember, like, we keep complaining about the camera, but you have to remember, like, the N64 controller didn't have a second analog stick. So players weren't fucking with the camera as much. Like, it was probably, I assume, on the D-pad or something.
No, it was there was little triggers on the.
Oh, and it would just move it left or right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. That makes sense.
Yep.
And so, like, it's just like, oh, that makes it even make more sense as to why it makes a noise, because it's tied to a button press.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. See, there's a reason for everything in its design. Now, are those reasons rooted in faulty design from Nintendo because they want to be cool and gimmicky and unique every generation? Yeah, but there's a reason for it. Nintendo makes smart decisions based off of the hardware that they're on. And that's prevalent in every generation of their game design. So, yeah, I think it holds up more than it doesn't. And that alone is impressive, because you go back and play other 3D games from this era, and they don't at all. They're awful. Shout out to Phil for making me play Sonic Adventure on Hype, man. That was one of the worst experiences I've ever had in my life.
Great. It's a great game.
Gentlemen, we've done it. We've talked about it. Last chance. Anybody got anything else to say?
I didn't say it, but I wanted to say this is my third favorite 3D Mario. Odyssey and Sunshine. I know, Odyssey and Sunshine. Those are the two that I put above this.
That's not.
I know Tavin loves Galaxy, but Tavin loves Galaxy, but
Galaxy. Like, to me, it's a debate between Odyssey and Galaxy, and I think Galaxy takes the edge because Odyssey is too easy.
Well, you heard it here. That's official.
That's me. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, after we're done talking and reviewing the game, we do, in fact, rank it amongst all the other games in the list in the series that we've done so far. This is game number 19 that we've done. Other games on this list are number 18, Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze. Number 17, Prey. Number 16, Tomb Raider. Number 15, Batman Arkham Asylum. Number 14, Uncharted Drake's Fortune. Number 13, Halo Combat Evolved. Number 12, Shadow of the Colossus. Number 11, Resident Evil 4. Number 10, Portal. Number 9, Resident Evil. Number 8, Chrono Trigger. Number 7, Dishonored. Dishonored. Number 6, Shovel Knight. Number 5, Portal 2. Number 4, Yakuza 0. Number 3, Hades. Number 2, The Last of Us. Number 1, God of War Ragnarok. Gentlemen,
where's it going?
Where is it going?
We don't know. We have no
don't know. Well,
we have no idea.
We shot an episode of this. We ranked it and reviewed it already, so we had that conversation. And so we did have to retread some of this here. But I'll go ahead and I'll start the conversation again. This game, I think, is just so important that it automatically goes above so many other games in this list. And I think, just off of quality of the experience alone, this game, to me, would be above Batman Arkham Asylum. But how important the game is, and the fact that it holds up at all, I think, is impressive. That it actually pushes it up a couple more slots So to me, you are foolish if you don't put this game in the same conversation with anywhere from Portal to Halo Combat Evolved. It needs to live there, and it could go higher if you want. Honestly, it could go above. Like, there's an argument to be made that it could go above Chrono Trigger. I'm not making that argument today. To me, obviously more important, more innovative, and more, honestly, even interesting than Uncharted 1. I think Halo is debatably just as important, but Halo Combat Evolved's design and the age on Halo 1 is aging faster and in worse ways than this game is. There's a lot of level design in Halo 1 that is not good. A lot of levels are too long. A lot of the combat design is not great. And it just being a twin-stick shooter in the way that modern twin-stick shooters are today, first-person shooters with twin sticks, is what keeps Halo in conversation of, like, greatest of all time. But I think if you look at it now, like, comparing the two, like, I think Mario is well above it. Shadow of the Colossus, I think, is a better art piece, a more interesting art piece. But this game is more fun to play. I'm more likely to revisit this game over Shadow of the Colossus. And I think Shadow of the Colossus is more interesting with the thoughts that I have when I'm not playing it. But when I am playing it, I'm sitting here going, fuck, man, why the fuck isn't he grabbing this thing? No, come on, stab him. Fuck, I fell off, this type of stuff. Whereas this one, it's just, Mario's yahoos are keeping me in the thrall. And I'm going, oh, man, I missed that jump. All right, let me try again. Got it. Yes, this feels great. Also, you feel a sense of satisfaction and, like, yes, I did it. Where Shadow of the Colossus doesn't give you that feeling at all.
But it does.
So to me, it is now a conversation between this game and Resident Evil 4. I think Portal's a perfectly designed game. It's just too short. I think Mario 64 falls behind Portal for me in this list. And so now it's a conversation between this one and Resident Evil 4. I think Resident Evil 4 also has a lot of issues, also is not aging super well, but is also, arguably just as important as Halo, as this game, but for third-person shooters. But I think Resident Evil 4 is more fun to play. I think it's more consistent in its level of quality. And even though I really harp on the second half of Resident Evil 4 really hard, that gameplay loop is still more fun, more exciting, and plays to me better than Mario 64 does today. I'm never frustrated in how Leon is controlling once I do the work to be in that mindset. Whereas here, it's the number of times that I slid off a fucking tiny, huge island when I'm trying to walk on that goddamn wooden platform. The number of times that happened, man, like, and wiped my progress right as I'm about to grab a star, like, was really, really annoying and frustrating. So, like, for that reason, like, Leon Kennedy's game feels better, has aged better, and is more fun to play than Mario 64. So for me, I'm putting this at number 12, above Resident Evil 4. Oh, I'm sorry, above Shadow of the Colossus, below Resident Evil 4. Connor, where are you?
Well, if I could, I would put Arkham Asylum at the bottom of this list. Now,
we can't do what ifs, Connor. The list is what it is.
We can't do what ifs because that frames where Mario 64 is going to go. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't suck like Arkham Asylum does. It most certainly doesn't. And so really, it's a question of everything above that. And starting with Uncharted 1, Uncharted 1 is outdated in not the same way that Mario 64 is, but it's still outdated. Even though the controls are worse in Mario 64, I found myself being very bored at multiple occasions on Uncharted 1, despite its shorter length of game time. But really the question is Halo for me, because I don't think it clears Shadow of the Colossus. I think the satisfaction of beating those Colossi is more substantial than the ones you get with the stars, mainly because the lead up to it is better, I would argue. So really, at the end of the day, it comes down to Halo. And Halo, while it does have not really great level design, especially compared to Mario 64, which has quite good level design, I think ultimately what cements it as being lower than Halo is the controls. At least Halo controls well. At least I pick up that controller and I can play it and not feel frustrated with what I'm doing in the game. Whereas as Mario, you just can't really avoid that unless you're one of those pro speed runners that can just do, extremely accurate movement in a game that fucks up quite often in that regard. And so for that reason, I think it definitively goes below Halo. And I'm not factoring in the importance of Mario 64. It's an element to appreciate, but I don't think one to compare to other games is a better quality.
You think Halo controls that much better than this game?
Substantially better. Yeah.
I could not disagree more. I think they're about the same.
No, not at all.
Like the floatiness of Chief's like jump and everything. Chief's punch does not feel good in Halo 1. It feels good in later Halo games, but in Halo 1 it does not feel good.
Even if they don't feel good by your standard, it works. Whereas Mario 64 quite often doesn't work.
Phil, where does that leave you?
Well, if I could have my way, I would put this at the new number 9, below Chrono Trigger, above Resident Evil.
God damn.
Portal. I know. I'm much higher on this than you guys. If I could hop into my Connor bag for a second and pull out my what if, I would put Shovel Knight significantly lower than number 6 on the list. I would have Shovel Knight somewhere around.
Sure, you're the reason it's that high.
11 or 12.
No,
you're the reason it's that high.
No, because I wanted it higher. But I think didn't you want it lower?
Oh yeah, the way it worked is I wanted it substantially lower on the list, but it's still a great game, by the way.
Yeah.
It's above a lot of the other ones. I can't remember. I think I said it was better than Resident Evil. No, I may have put it either below Resident Evil or right above it, but I did it around that area. Meanwhile, Phil, you went higher, but not tip-top higher, as Tavin was trying to put it.
Yakuza
right
0
below
does
Hades.
not deserve to be this high. I'll say it
It
till
does.
the day I die.
Hey, God of War Ragnarok
does.
doesn't. So it all kind of... This is the nature of the Two Penny Games list, and it's kind of what makes it fun because you have to
Yeah.
make compromises.
Yeah.
But
the thing is, me and Connor agree with Yakuza 0 being that high.
we do. The fucking Shovel Knight, it was all over the place. It just, the way the numbers worked out, it ranked it as high as it was. I say all over the place, it was all consistently good.
Tavin was just super high on it, and he bought all those fucking amiibos, and then he got the shout out from Yacht Club Games on our TikTok, which is pretty cool.
I don't know what you're talking about. I have 2 amiibos. I've got them right here. I've got a Solid Snake amiibo and a Shovel Knight amiibo.
He's lying.
I'm not
Go
gonna-
watch the
I'm
review.
not letting
got
you-
them
I'm
right
not-
here. Here, let me
I'm
get
not
to
letting you do this again.
Let me get it right
Anyway,
here. See? Solid Snake.
So I would have
Don't engage
this.
with them. Don't engage with them.
Shovel
I
Knight.
would put this at the new number 9, like I said, which leaves us at an impasse, which means, Tavin, that the game is going to end up at number 12.
It's not really an
Let's
impact.
have that conversation real quick. Number 9 above Resident Evil.
Yeah.
I think Chrono Trigger is definitively a better game. Phil has not played Chrono Trigger because he wasn't on the series yet, and he just hasn't gotten around to it because we play other games and have lives. Connor, you and I played Chrono Trigger for this show. We reviewed it and we ranked it, and it's fallen a couple spots since then because it was so early. I think undeniably Chrono Trigger better than Mario 64.
No,
Yeah.
by far.
Resident Evil HD. Let's have that conversation. Well, it's probably still going to fall, in the middle at number 12. It's probably still where it's going to fall. But let's have that conversation of Mario 64 versus Resident Evil. Phil, you in particular were not super high on Resident Evil. I think I was the highest. Connor fell somewhere in the middle. And to just continue the conversation of what ifs, I would have Resident Evil way higher. But that's me. So let's directly compare those two, Resident Evil versus Mario 64. I still give it to Resident Evil. I think Resident Evil's game design is more solid. I think its level design is equal, if not greater than Mario 64's. I think the level of tension that Resident Evil holds is impressive. The effect that Resident Evil 1 has on the player emotionally, I think, is greater and more impressive than what Mario 64 does. And Resident Evil, I think, is, I've been talking all podcast about doing a little bit of work to meet the game halfway. Resident Evil, when you meet it halfway, is incredibly rewarding. Whereas I think you have to do even more work to meet this game more than halfway. But when you do get there, it is rewarding, but not in the same ways or to the same extent that RE1 is. How do you feel, Connor?
It most certainly is not. You said it's equivalent, the level design, to Resident Evil and Mario 64.
Equivalent if Resident Evil's not better.
Yeah, I think it's substantially better. Resident Evil, I think the ability to make a single map that just connects all in and of itself and has all of these different rooms that you unlock as you go further in the game. You complete puzzles by obtaining pieces that are on the opposite side of the mansion, and then having to go back and sometimes not even doing it for story progress, just to get cool items, which are all extremely missable. And also the way you can play with two different characters, so you eventually have kind of two ways to play the game. And it does just, have that atmosphere and tone that makes you feel like you're walking in a haunted mansion. Yeah. And at the end of the day, it also controls better for what game it's trying to be.
The fact that months later, I can think back on Resident Evil and remember this room connects to that one connects to there. That's where you get that item, and you go back to the front area, plug it into that portrait, and then the door opens and stuff like that. Like, the fact that I can still remember all of those things months later, I think speaks to the quality of that level design. Here, I don't know. I've already started forgetting all the stars on Bomb Bomb Battlefield. Like, as much as I even like that level, I'll never forget the design of Bomb, or the look of Bomb, but I will forget where the coins are, or your way up the mountain gets a little murky of like how many actual jumps are in there in my memory of it. Maybe that's just me. Phil, where are you at here?
I could not disagree more. I remember almost nothing from Resident Evil. As far as what places connect where, and I just feel like a lot of the puzzle solving in that game is just very not what's the word I'm looking for? It's just very you just have to jump through hoops, in order to oh yeah, of course there's something that I can examine and there's something inside of this. Of course, why wouldn't there be? It just feels like it's not always super obvious in terms of a lot of the items you get. It's like, okay, why do I have this thing? Why let me just examine every single thing to see if it does something so I can get something else. I don't know. Something about it in terms of I hate how the shooting is in that game. I hate some of the I hate the isometric camera. I don't know. I don't like. I'm just not that high on it. I appreciate Resident Evil as a game. I liked my time with it. Probably because I used a guide. But either way, I just think Mario 64 is overall a better package. I would come back to Mario 64 way before I would come back to Resident Evil.
Phil, I have to do it to you. I'm sorry. It's a matter of principle at this point, but I have to be unbiased. It's a skill issue. It's a massive skill issue.
My thing is
you're better at looking at things. Okay, you're better at looking at things in your inventory.
Doesn't require that much skill, to get through it. It really doesn't. So really, it's just brain issue. You just got brain issues.
Yeah, because I think the game itself is very intuitive. I don't think it requires a guide. Certain parts, certainly I can see why, but overall, I felt like the game led you on the path without holding your hand. And
yeah,
so there was one part in that game when you got in the garden area. I remember some bullshit happening, and it was just very easy to miss.
Yeah,
but that's only one bit.
I was thinking of that's the one part where I was like, how do I do this? And I called you, and I was like, how did you get past this? And he went, oh, it's this, and I went, oh, okay. Other than that one moment, I think the game gives you plenty of tools to figure it out. You look at your inventory, you go, okay, well, I haven't used this item yet. All right, let me examine it. Okay, okay. Oh, there's a switch in the back. Oh, okay, great, got it. Now I've opened it up and there's a key in there, and now I know how to use that key. Or you're like, I don't have any items that have not been used. Let me look at the map. This room still says that there's something in there. Let me go run over to that room and scour every surface to find whatever item is still in there. And sometimes that would reward me with a first aid spray. Or something useless, I don't know, an ink ribbon or something. And that would be it. And I'd be like, fuck. Or 2 bullets or something.
That's another thing. The limited saves, very annoying.
Just gotta be smart.
I never worried for that. I had a lot of.
I didn't have.
No, I still had plenty. I still had plenty of saves at the end. But I'm just saying, it's just annoying that you have an item that you use to save. It's just I don't know.
See, I like it. I think it's a cool.
Gimmick. Yeah, the only reason where that becomes a problem is the inventory system of requiring you to backtrack constantly.
Yeah.
And when those puzzle solving bits come up, it becomes very annoying because I'm not, engaging with the game in any fun way. I'm just walking through the same halls to get to a safe box and change things out. And the ink ribbon really holds up space as well.
Yeah.
So saving becomes another
Well,
chore.
I think it turns save scumming into an actual mechanic. Like, the game is okay if you save scum. Like, I'm not gonna say it promotes the idea, but it enables you to do it and not feel kind of guilty about it. Whereas, like, what's the last game I save scummed in? I can't even remember.
Baldur's Gate 3.
Baldur's Gate 3. That's a great example. You feel kind of dirty when you save scum in Baldur's Gate 3. Because there is an element to that game where it goes, you should live with your consequences of your choices. Like, whether it's combat, whether it's dialogue or things like that. Like, whereas Resident Evil, it goes, no, save scum. It's okay. You know where the item is now. Go to it. You know where the zombies are now. Refresh that hit, that you took. You didn't need to take that. Like, it turns that into a mechanic, which I think is ingenious. Like, that requires a level of game design thinking that the best games of all time haven't reached. Now, I don't think Resident Evil is the best game on this list by far, but it certainly is. It's probably the smartest game on this list.
Portal,
the Portal games. Okay, I'll give you the Portal
2,
games.
I would say.
Yeah, Portal 1 and Portal 2. I would probably put over that, but it's right there in that conversation. So, anyways. Ladies and gentlemen, all of that was just for fun little Toxie Talks. We are, in fact, ranking it at the new number 12, above Resident Evil 4. No, I did it again. Damn it. Above Shadow of the Colossus, below Resident Evil 4. Let us know down in the comments how wrong we got this and where you would put the list in your own personal list down there. Ladies and gentlemen, usually around this time, what we normally do is we spin the wheel. We've got a collection of games listed in a little spinner wheel, spinnerwheel.com or whatever. And we spin that wheel, and it decides the next game that... How long have we been in the wide? It decides the next game that we play for the following month. However, we wanted to implement a new system this year to give us a little bit more agency in what we're playing, just a little bit, so that we can kind of start getting to the series that... we envisioned playing and ranking when we started this show. And so what we're going to do is we have let the wheel decide the order. And 1 month, one of us is going to pick a game. The next month, the wheel is going to pick. And then the third month in that, a different host will pick the game, and we'll rotate that way. We let the spinner wheel decide the order of the hosts. It's going to start with Connor, go to Phil, and then me. So for the month of January, Connor, it is your pick. February, the wheel will pick. March, Phil will pick, and we'll go on like that. So, Connor, what are we playing this month, buddy?
Well, due to the nature of how we've recorded this, I've already said what we're playing, and these two have already started.
In fact, you said one game, and then 2 days later said, "No, we're going to do something else instead." So, this is your only opportunity to refresh.
Connor, let me ask you a question. How long is Final Fantasy VII?
You spoiled it! Yeah, well, see, here's the problem. I wanted to play another game, as Tavin said. It was long, and I knew some people weren't going to be playing the game entirely or the amount I would want them to play due to certain reasons. But at the end of the day, I decided, well, there's a game that I want to play in advance for the sequel or the remake sequel that's coming out next month, which is Final Fantasy VII. And so I wanted to go back to the original one, and thinking that it was shorter than the original game I played, which it is, I thought it was more substantially short. It turns out it's not. And so my original intention kind of fell by the wayside, but I really want to play Final Fantasy VII, one of my favorite games, or was one of my favorite games back when I played it days and days and days ago. That basically turned out to be years. So, yeah, let's see how great Final Fantasy VII is.
Final Fantasy VII.
I'm so excited to play Nier Replicant.
Hey, you spoiled it. The other one
could be next month. Could be next month. I certainly hope it's not next month.
It better not be.
I really hope it isn't. So, anyways, ladies and
gentlemen,
on
my PlayStation and everything.
Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, we are playing Final Fantasy VII. To make that clear, the original Final Fantasy VII from Sony PlayStation, all that fun stuff.
Yeah, the 20-hour game.
1996, 97,
97.
97. Yeah.
Year I was born.
Which is great because I just played it last year. Literally a year ago, I was playing Final Fantasy VII.
Yes.
Which is great. So we're gonna be playing that. I'll say we're gonna play it to the best of our abilities. Of course, we all have lives and we review the newest and latest and greatest games. So the rule is for the long, big games to at least crack 20 hours. I would highly stress that the current versions of Final Fantasy VII on PlayStation, on Switch, and stuff like that, they come with like built-in cheats that you can use. I would say only use the ×3 speed cheat just to kind of speed up the process. Like, there's a lot of time wasted in Final Fantasy VII by modern standards of like the camera takes forever to load in and the UI takes forever. And
not to mention combat encounters that you don't need to do when you're traveling in the overworld.
You're just sitting there waiting and stuff. So yeah, just use that to speed up that process, or like just the process of walking around can take a while sometimes. So, use that. But the unlimited limit breaks, the no random encounters, I think kind of breaks the spirit of the game. So let's kind of negate those and then just kind of keep it there. I'm hoping that this will be the playthrough that I get the platinum trophy for Final Fantasy VII on. I'm hoping.
Tall order.
It's a tall order. It depends on how much Barrett likes me about halfway through the game. Is what will kind of make or break that. Probably won't.
I would have gotten picked by Don Corneo, but I failed the squat mini game.
Damn. Hey, get into those legs.
That's such an easy minigame in this. Remember in the remake how hard it is? It's fucking hard in remake.
Oh, yeah.
I only lost by 3.
Hey, well.
I won by 10.
Hey, don't you?
Yeah, okay.
Everyone's not as good as you, Ted.
Anyway, so yeah, me and Phil have already started because we have games to review. Thanks, fuckhead.
You're welcome.
So we will see all of you sometime in the beginning of February. There's a lot of games released in that calendar in that window of time. So we don't know exactly when we will be reviewing it, but we will be back in February with the Game Club with a hot, fresh review of 1997's Final Fantasy VII. So until next time, have a great time. Thank you so much for watching and listening. Let us know what games we should play in the future down in the comments below. But until next time, have a great time. And gentlemen, say goodbye to the people.
Bye.
40 hours?